Hello, today I'm going to talk to you about tumors, I guess, and my experience of not actually having one but thinking I did, and my horrible, painful experience of getting cut open by a scalpel by a doctor in Japan with no anesthetic, and what my issue is right now. So the reason why I was prompted to make this video, because I was thinking I should make a video, and I was thinking, oh, well, I'm going to take these earbuds off, sorry. What am I going to make it about? And I thought to myself, hey, what the fuck is that on your wrist right now? And I've got a giant fucking freaky lump on my wrist that reminds me way too much of something that I had about a year ago that I'll tell you the story of. And the story will explain why I'm incredibly freaked out to actually go to a doctor in Japan about this. And I just noticed this, like, legitimately about 2 hours ago. So, at this angle, here are my two wrists, and I'm not a cutter, I swear to fucking God. Right here, these are burn marks from trying to get things out of my oven because of how it's structured. I'm not cutting myself, they're actually burnt. But anyway, so, see my two wrists. You know, if I bend this one out, yeah, it goes out a bit here, but that's normal. And tonight I realized if I bend this one out, it does this. You know, like, this is not normal. And I just noticed it tonight, of all things. Like, that's fucking freaky. That shouldn't be like that. So I bent my wrist this way and I felt it, and I'm like, yeah, there is a large lump under my skin, and that freaks me out. And, I researched wrist tumors, and, most things say they're probably not tumors, they're some kind of fluid-filled sac, and I can possibly agree with that because it doesn't feel super solid, but, to a normal person they go, oh, I don't have cancer. And, like, I did that, and I'm like, I probably don't have cancer, which is good, but because of my last experience having something that did this kind of bulgy thing in a joint, which happened to be my armpit right here about a year ago, I don't feel quite so confident. So to tell you the story of my previous experience with tumor-looking things, god damn, that looks fucking terrible. Jesus Christ, I need to see somebody about that. But we'll see how it goes. Yeah, so about maybe a year and a half ago, I went to this, like, martial arts training thing by a friend of mine, Shane, at my old job that I used to work at. And, basically, like, me and my coworker friends, spent a few hours, doing throws and throwing each other around in a park, like out in Ibaraki in Japan. And it seemed all fine for about a day. And then after a day, I felt my armpit, and I'm like, actually, sorry, it was this one. I'm like, I feel like a little bump there, Like, I feel a little bump, and that's weird. I'm like, oh, it's nothing. And then after another couple of days, I'm like, okay, it's grown to the size of about a kidney bean in my armpit. That's not good. That's really big for a lump, and that's worrying. And then it rapidly grew from there to the point where it was so large that I could not put down my arm. Like, I had to keep my arm open about like this because it went like this. And I'm sure you're not believing me right now, but I'll show you the picture of after it was lanced, per se. But I couldn't even put down my arm. And I had a lot of students at my school who were doctors or people who worked in, pharmacological research, and I asked one who was a doctor, and quite a noted one as well. I'm like, I really don't want to trouble you. You can see I'm in pain right now, because the thing about this lump was that it wasn't a skin-based lump, because I had tried lancing it myself. It wasn't the skin thing, it was underneath the muscle. So when you try and poke into it, you go, okay, I'm through the skin. That really hurt. But if I want to actually hit this thing, I have to go through the muscle because it's not at the top. And I'm like, I can't do it. I can't fucking do it. I tried, and I couldn't do it. So I showed it to this guy, and he's like, okay, yeah, it's an infection of this particular, pocket, I believe, of your lymph. And it is under the muscle, so you're going to have to go and have somebody, lance it for you with a scalpel. So the next day I decided to go to a doctor, and there was a clinic. It was a skin clinic specifically right next to the school that I was working at, and they gave me time off to go do it because I was in crying pain at this point, because it's not just like, you have a giant skin abscess going on. It's underneath the muscle, and when you have something underneath the muscle where, if you lift your arm, it stretches the muscle in here tight, and if the muscle can't go in and it's pressing on a giant fluid sac the second that you lift your arm even slightly, it kills. It was so fucking painful because I couldn't put my arm down all the way because I had something blocking my joint, but I couldn't put my arm up at all because that would put pressure on the fluid sac, and it was just killing. It was like so bad that I basically couldn't sleep, and I certainly couldn't sleep lying on this arm, and I'm a side sleeper, and it was just horrifying. So what was more horrifying was the treatment. So I went to the skin clinic that was by my school, and I was actually not insured at that point, which was illegal technically, but my school didn't provide health insurance or force me to sign up for it. And you're supposed to sign up voluntarily for health insurance when you get employed in Japan, whether your employer, helps or not. And good employers pay, I think it's 50% is what I get now, and that's what they should be paying. My former employer didn't offer health insurance help, so they did not pay 50%. And therefore I said, well, you're not going to pay it, and you're not forcing me to sign up for it, so I'm going to be an illegal and not pay anything. Which, to be fair, honestly, for the entire year was totally worth it, and I would totally be back on that system right now if I could and just pay out of pocket, because right now I probably wasted about $2,000 being forced to pay for it on health insurance I have never used aside from my past 2 dentist appointments. But anyway, so I went to this clinic, and the doctor, there was a doctor and 2 nurses, and the doctor, she looked at my arm and said, oh, she could speak some English, like, yeah, we will have to drain this. And she's like, is this okay? I'm like, yeah, okay, please drain it. And I expected her to, take out a needle, shove it in, and, drain it, by sucking the pus out of it or something, because I assumed it was full of pus and not a tumor based on how fast it grew. You can't grow a tumor that fast. It was, less than 7 days, and it went from being the size of a pea to being so big I couldn't, lower my armpit. It definitely wasn't a tumor. But she whipped out the scalpel. And I'm like, wait. No. And so she put it down, and then she got out a vial and she got out a needle, and I'm like, okay, yay, local anesthetic. That's cool. Okay, I hate needles, but if you're gonna, this is my first time being cut with a scalpel where I was conscious. The only other time I've ever been cut with a scalpel was when my wisdom teeth were removed, and I required a full-on, not conscious anesthetic procedure for that, because I'm terrified of these things. So I have no recollection of ever being cut by a scalpel, And so, she got out the needle and she shoved it in, and I cried my face off, because every time I have to be injected or have blood taken in any form, I cry like crazy, because I am terrified of needles. It's like, I honestly couldn't say, I think my fear of needles is worse than my fear of spiders, because you can come closer to me with spiders than you can with needles before I actually start shaking and crying. I am that scared of needles. And so she jabbed it in my arm, and I'm just like, it's gonna be better. It's gonna be better. Just gonna take this out of your arm. You won't feel it. You know, you can just look away. Just, it'll be better than the pain you're feeling now. You have to have it done. You know, be strong. And she injected me, and she slapped me a couple of times in the arm, you know, and I thought that was to check and see if it was working, and it fucking was excruciatingly painful, because just like touching it, like brushing this giant mass in my arm was incredibly painful. And when she smacked me there, I'm like, God damn it, oh my god, that was fucking painful. It was like lightning pain through everything, and I went, no, not frozen, not anesthetic, please understand me. No, ow, pain, ow, and she's like, no, shh, be quiet. She had the nurse hold my arm up, and I'm like, it's not numb, and she's like, yeah, okay, and then she grabs the scalpel, and I'm like, it's not numb, and she slices my armpit open, right, actually it was crosswise, right here. Now imagine somebody taking a scalpel to an incredibly sensitive joint. You know, to me, my most sensitive joints are the insides of my thighs, the backs of my knees, and my armpits. And probably the insides of my thighs are number one, then my armpits, then the backs of my knees. She took a scalpel right to the center of the inside of my armpit, right here, and just went straight in, deep cut through the muscle, kind of deep cut, just puncture it straight in, and then across. No anesthetic. And you know why it was no anesthetic? Because I found out about 45 minutes later that what she gave me was not a general. It was basically the equivalent of liquid Tylenol 3s with codeine, where it's a long-term painkiller, not a numbing painkiller. So I flat out had a Japanese doctor, my first experience with the Japanese healthcare system, mind you, shove a fucking scalpel in my arm and slice my armpit open with no anesthetic. So that was a fucking horror movie experience. And it didn't just end there. Because remember how I told you that this lump was so sensitive that, like, just touching it, like, just brushing a finger across it would literally make me tear up. It was so painful. Well, after she sliced my arm open, she then put a towel under my arm to catch the pus and just went, and I screamed. And literally, like, all of the nursing rooms saying, no, shh, no, because there were, like, a bunch of kids in the waiting room, and I guarantee they could hear me through the door, but I'm like, fuck you, you just cut me open with a scalpel with no fucking anesthetic, motherfucker. You didn't ask me. You know I'm uninsured, so thank you for the cheapness, but you didn't ever say, you know, if you would like the local, it will cost you this much more. You didn't even ask. You just did it. And I know, like, the doctor's English was good enough, she could have asked. Like, she had, you know, no joining words, but she knew all the nouns and all the verbs. She could have said, you know, anesthetic, you want? Like, she knew English well enough to do that. She could have done that, and she knew the words for it, too. She said anesthetic before she injected me. It just wasn't the right kind. But no, like, and then she just went, and, like, just imagine, like, I can't even describe how to imagine it, but, like, imagine, you know, you have an incision in your arm that you've just gotten from a scalpel with no anesthetic, and then somebody squeezes something that is so painful on your body that you couldn't previously just vaguely, like, lightly stroke it without tearing up. It was that painful because it was that swollen. Just have somebody squeeze it, and it's underneath your muscle, too, so it's a hard lump, so she had to squeeze hard. It wasn't like a soft squeeze, it was like a kind of squeeze. Oh, God. And the amount of shit that came out of that. And while it was coming out, she's like, no, it must feel better. And she's, like, touching me with her other hand, going, oh, no, stop crying, and stop screaming, stop crying, stop screaming. It must feel better now, right? I'm like, no! It hurts so much. She's like, just look. And, like, it was fucking gross, and I didn't look, but, like, I could just feel, like, gushing out of my arm, and I didn't want to look. Like, I looked, like, briefly I glanced when they were switching out gauze, because they were catching it with gauze. They did it 3 times, and it was, like, massive ooze. Like, I can't even explain how big it was. It was just massive fucking ooze. And I'll take a brief moment here to explain why I think it happened, because I said I was, you know, wrestling out in the dirt with my friends, and what happened was that particular day I was cheaping out because I took a shower and I forgot to shave my armpits, and I'm like, oh shit, I'm wearing, you know, a no-sleeve shirt. I'm just gonna dry shave after the fact. So I dry shaved, and what happens, which actually I just did that for this video too, better not go running around in dirt, but if you dry shave, like right now my armpit actually burns because I did that, and I buy shitty dollar store razors, and when you buy shitty dollar store razors, you don't necessarily get cuts that are obvious, but from the burn I feel in my armpit, I know that I have, you know, micro abrasions, as it were, and I think bacteria got in through those, because that's what I did, and I was covered in dust by the end of that day, and that's what I think caused it. But anyway, so, after all, or not all, but most of the goop was out, she, didn't stitch me up. Which, you know, I was terrified of the, again, needles, but I'm like, okay, I've got a hole in my arm where you cut me open, you know, maybe you should stitch me up. And she's like, gauze, bandage, adhesive. She's like, here's gauze, here's adhesive, bandages, change once a day, go. Oh, and here's cream, and put this on. But yeah, so basically I ended up getting a prescription for, I believe it was it oral? No, actually she didn't give me the cream. She put it on, but then she gave me a prescription for the cream, and I had to go and buy that myself. But basically I was in so much pain where I was basically just like this, and I stumbled out to the waiting room with just tears streaming down my face, you know, and I knew I had to pay for this. I had to pay $120 to have my arm sliced open with no anesthetic while I screamed in pain. So, yay, Japanese healthcare. And so I paid my $120, and then I stumbled next door, or actually I stumbled around for a while trying to find the pharmacy for my armpit cream, and eventually I found it after like 20 minutes of stumbling around looking. It was right next to the clinic, and I couldn't see it, but anyway. So I went there, and I bought my antibiotic or antiseptic cream. And then I went back to work and cried my face off, and they're like, oh my god, they did what to you? They did what? They did what with that anesthetic? And I don't recall having, maybe I don't recall, I don't think, no, I did have to teach classes that day. I had to fucking teach classes after that. They weren't going to cancel them. I remember now. I just luckily had a day where I had no classes for the first part, and I went, thankfully, to the doctor at the beginning. But I literally had to, like, one-arm gimp, like, you know, with my arm tucked in going, oh my god, I'm in so much pain, you know, teach classes. And you better bet that, you know, I'm pretty sure I had my high school student, four-girl quadro there, that I really liked come in later, and you better bet that I told them that story, and then I had an adult later, and I told them that story, and I'm like, if I look like I'm in really bad pain, guys, it's because I had my armpit sliced up with no anesthetic, and I horrified all of them, but you know what? To me, that's better than just, you know, seeming weird and in pain without explaining it. So yeah, I totally told them. So, intermediate segue to not horrify you by flat out shocking you with these pictures, because I'm going to be a cheap ass and I'm not editing this shit anymore because it already needs editing. I'm going to film the pictures of my armpit, and this is after the fact. Now, to give you an idea of how big this mass was before, this is about, I'd say, a quarter to a fifth of the lump size that it was before. And keep in mind that my arm is only semi-raised in these pictures, and I apologize for the armpit hair. I couldn't shave for a week and a half because I had a giant mass under my arm. Here's number one. Yeah, and you can see the red lump there. I took these pictures about, a few days after the incision. So the red lump there is roughly where I was cut, but yeah. Here's a bit of a side view. You can see, like, it sticks out a fair ways, but that's like about a quarter to a fifth of the size it was. Like, it was about the size of a golf ball at the time, and that's how far it shrunk. Oh yeah, that's fucking beautiful right there. So, that's what it looked like after. Just so you know. And, yeah, so, have a good night. And I really hope that, my horrifying, check this shit out, look at this shit. Like, that's not normal. My wrist tumor doesn't get worse. And, oh yeah, I forgot to add one thing. So remember I said last time that I felt like it was like some kind of cut, or I don't know, maybe like it could have been like a bug bite, like a mite or something. So I had, you can see one right here. Here's something. So I had a breakout across here and a bit on my arms in the last 5 days, where I thought that, you know, at first I'm like, Jesus Christ, these look like bug bites, but they don't itch. And I woke up with them, and I know I don't have bed bugs because I've never gotten them before. I haven't gotten bites since, so they shouldn't be bites because I haven't had any more. It was just that one night, and they showed up. I thought, okay, they must be pimples, and I have some weird, unusual breakout. But they've got like these hard centers to them, and on the ones on my chest, and that's one. And there was one here, and one on my neck, which, yeah, you can see it right here. I scratched the hard centers out of them because they just didn't look right, and they weren't like pimples. There was actually like a hard mass underneath the skin, so I scratched it out and yanked it out painfully, but it was worth it, I feel. And I also forgot that I had one on my wrist, right here. Well, where is that on my wrist? Right underneath this tumor thing that I have. So I'm starting to wonder whether whatever it was that broke the skin there, because I didn't fuck with it afterwards, has caused this. So, now I'm worried that I have bug bites I got from somewhere, and I now have insect eggs growing inside my wrist. So, that's cool. Better than cancer, I think. Yay! So let's all hope that I don't have cancer, and yeah. See you later.